5 o'clock. I will call the Public Works meeting to order. Start out with the roll call. Alder Manzer. Here. Alder Bellinger. Here. Alder Boris. Here. Alder Rust. Present. And Alder Decker is here. We will start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, we'll go on to number 4, approval of minutes from December 8th, Public Works meeting. So moved. Second. Motion is made by Alder Rust, seconded by Alder Bellinger. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Those are approved. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Ryan?
At 2006 South 9th Street. I wanted to speak on agenda item 9, dealing with the New Jersey Trail. So I saw it back in the, the CIP that was referenced on how it's getting paid for. It references a bike and pedestrian trail. In the agenda packet here, I didn't see anything saying the scope other than pedestrian trail. So I just want to ensure that it's clear, or that the scope wasn't reduced to be just pedestrian trail. I run a group that does these critical mass bike rides where we take 50, 60 people around town, and we did drive or ride on the Kiwanis Trail and then go over to the Taylor Drive Trail. Several comments from that were that people didn't feel safe in the road there. They felt like cars were passing close. I know there's like a painted bike lane there, but yeah, there's a lot of comments where people said they didn't feel safe there with how close cars were passing, and people seem to speed there. It's a very wide road, so just want to make sure that the scope of this wasn't getting reduced from that initial CIP document dealing with the funding. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else here to speak? I guess, since you're the only one here, I guess that would be it. Okay, item number 6. Resolution number 156, 2526 by Alderpersons Decker and Rust, authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into a contract with Fulth Infrastructure and Environment, LLC, to design a major upgrade to wastewater's Kentucky Avenue pump station. Jordan.
Good evening. If you don't mind, I'll stay up here for the next 3 items, hopefully, okay. And we'll see how that goes. But so this first of 3 contracts that I'm asking for tonight is for the Kentucky Avenue pump station. Those of you that may not be familiar with pump stations, basically it's just a way to transport wastewater from areas that can't reach the wastewater plant by gravity alone. And so the wastewater will flow to a central area. It'll be pumped up to a higher elevation and then allowed to flow by gravity again. This is by far our largest and most important of lift stations that we have in the city of Sheboygan. This is at the corner of Kentucky and 7th. It's from the 1930s, so it's quite old, and it's in some pretty poor condition. We have been working with Fulth, this company, to look at this plant for about 5-6 years now, even before I started here. And over that time, the scope of what's being proposed has changed. I did want to explain that because the amount that I'm asking for tonight is higher than what was projected in the CIP. And along with that, the price of construction will probably be significantly higher than I've been anticipating as well. And so I did want to just be very upfront about that when Fulth took another look at the plant last year, they found several deficiencies that had deteriorated significantly since they had been there previously, including the condition of the generator, the motor control centers, the types of pumps that we had were clogging consistently, and there were just a lot of other things that were coming to their attention that they felt wouldn't be good to just kind of do a moderate upgrade of the plant. They really wanted to see this have a full overhaul. And we concurred with that, and so that's why I'm asking for a higher dollar figure. I do want to, though, reassure the committee and eventually, hopefully, the city council that I do think there are ways within the CIP to save money. If the financial bottom line in the wastewater fund is a concern as the year plays out, there are some projects that we can postpone. I think you know about the Southside Interceptor, that's a really huge project there and some pretty good news from the state. So I'm confident, obviously I can't speak for Director Krieger, but I'm confident that the wastewater fund will be very, very healthy despite the money that I'm asking for tonight. So that's kind of a summary. We are applying also for Clean Water Fund loan for this, which would also help, of course. So there are lots more details that we can get into. If this goes forward tonight, then I would invite Foth at a future meeting, 6 or 8 months down the road, to maybe explain the construction side of things in quite a bit more detail. But for tonight, I just wanted to give you a real broad view of what we're asking for and to see if there are any questions that I can follow up on.
Okay, I'll start out with the questions real quick. This is obviously a very important piece of equipment for us. This building is actually, this feeds mainly to that Southside Interceptor, that we are going to be replacing, correct? Or we're not replacing, but refurbishing.
It's actually in a different part of the city. So again, Kentucky and 7th is just south of the river, of Sheboygan River.
Okay.
And so basically this lift station takes the wastewater from the town of Sheboygan and from all of the north side of the city. And in fact, much of the south part of the city flows to that as well. South and west of the pump station goes there. So over half of the flows that come to the wastewater plant go through this pump station, which is why the Lakeshore Interceptor is what's between this pump station and the plant.
Okay.
And that's just a very essential piece of our infrastructure.
Okay. I also see that there's some major upgrades as far as included in this, that better pumps, newer, more efficient. The efficiency is much better and such like that. What's the expected lifespan of something like this when we do this?
Well, we certainly hope to get 20 to 40 years out of pumps if they're well maintained. One thing that's very challenging about the pumps that we have there now is that there tend to be so many rags and things like that in the wastewater that flows to it that they clog up pretty often. And what Foth is proposing is to put a different type of pump in there that grinds those rags up and doesn't allow them to clog as well, which of course extends the life of the pumps, things like that. So yeah, we definitely would hope to get 20 to 40 years out of that major equipment.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Alder Menzer.
Thank you, Chair. To piggyback off of that, that was my only real question, that so much of this infrastructure is very old, and I'm speaking to maybe a couple other items, but this one will serve, 50 years, 70 years it's been, yet we're saying, oh, we're going to do this major, equipment replacement that will extend it from 20 to 40 years. I mean, is it just the old anecdote that they just don't build them like they used to? They're not going to last 50 to 70 years like these, or?
Well, I think that the structure will last, much longer than some of the individual pieces of equipment. I would say that even the pumps that are there don't go back to the 1930s. Oh. Those were upgraded maybe in the 70s or 80s, things like that. Okay. So we've gotten good life out of those. The structure itself, maybe some of the facility is that old, but a lot of the equipment isn't 100 years
All right.
older.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Alder Bellinger.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to clarify that I am of the opinion that the most important pump station is the 3rd Street pump station. That's because that's across the street from my house.
Yes, sir.
I think that is the most important one. But anyway, the 20 to 40 years, that's a huge range. I mean, is there any kind of guarantee, 50,000 miles for tires, or what? Is there any kind of guarantee for these pumps? And I'm just curious, what is the life, or when was the last time the pump was on the 3rd Street pump station redone?
I can check into a more specific lifespan anticipated for the pumps themselves.
It just seems
It
like
is-
a large variance.
It is a very large variance. And for example, one of the reasons for a variance like that is that our current 5 pumps within that Kentucky Avenue pump station, 2 of them have variable frequency drives or VFDs. And so those are almost always the pumps that we use. And so one day it'll be pump 1, the next day it'll be pump 5. Pumps 2, 3, and 4 almost never run unless we have a high flow event that requires 2, 3, 4, all 5 of those pumps to kick in. And so, for example, in that case, pumps 2, 3, and 4 will probably last much longer just because they're not used very often. One nice thing about a project of this scope that we're proposing is that all 5 would be set up similarly. So instead of 2 pumps bearing all of the load or most of the load, we could spread it out along all 5. So that would extend the life of the pumps. But between now and the city council meeting a week from tonight, I can certainly try to get a better sense from both about what the expected life of the pumps would be, what major factors go into that. I do know that this style of pump, again, that ability to pass those rags instead of being clogged by them consistently, new check valves, things like that, all of that will go into helping these pumps last as long as they can.
Thank you.
And the 3rd Street pump station is critical, and that goes to Kentucky. So if something goes wrong in Kentucky, your neighborhood will be affected.
Okay,
How's that?
thank you.
The NEBO is connected to the. I also just, like you said, these pumps aren't necessarily 70 years old. They've been upgraded. They've been.
Right.
It's just the station itself and the infrastructure that's in there is probably 70 years old. But the actual pumps themselves, I mean, even. Be honest with you, they probably don't, to even get 20 years out of them probably is probably stretching as far as the pump itself, just replace, and they're just replaced or rebuilt actually, probably, I would say probably would be the best way to describe it, correct?
That's true. And again, most of our conversation with both up to this point has been focused on some of the other major pieces of equipment like the generator and the HVAC system. Alder Rust, as an electrician, you probably know all of the variations that come into play with NFPA 820, the need to have the HVAC system handle so many air exchanges, things like that. So that's a huge part of this project. So like I said, I'm happy to do some more homework with both on just what we can expect from the pumps.
Okay.
That's just one component of this project.
Thank you. Any other discussion on it? Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Alder Rust, seconded by Alder Bellinger. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Okay, we'll go on to number 7. Resolution 157-2526, Ball versus Decker, and authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into contract with Donahue and Associates for engineering design services to demolish a 1930s digester area at the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, and unlike the pumps of the last conversation, these structures truly are from the 1930s. This is, if you've been to the plant and you visited there, we have 4 digesters that basically take the biosolids that we drain out of the wastewater, converts a lot of that into an inert product that we can make fertilizer from. And so the 4 newer digesters are only 50 years old. These are, like I said, almost 100 years old. And back in the 2000s and up to 2017, we used 2 of these 4 old digester structures to hold high-strength waste. This is basically from like dairy plants, things like that Sheboygan used to convert into a lot of methane gas, generated electricity using that. It was a really kind of state-of-the-art idea, really benefited the community for a long time. One of the side effects, though, of that is that this high-strength waste being stored in these concrete structures that were really not intended for that, we fear really degraded those structures themselves. And so in my entire time here, getting that area demolished, getting it made safe environmentally, physically, and demolishing it has been a pretty high priority for our entire staff. And we're finally at a point where we've put out a request for proposals Donahue and Associates gave us a good proposal to design the demolition of this. This is another area where what we had set aside for at least studying it became more of a high dollar figure, and we're looking to actually do the design of the demolition. And so we're confident that this will be an essential project for the plant. Like I said, we do have concerns about the safety of that area and the environmental impact of that area if we don't address what's in there. And so we think that the time is right for this. And one thing that I did want to point out is that we are looking to save some eventual contract dollars by moving some of the active pipes that go through there. We have pipes that carry final effluent water through there, and we also have pipes that carry primary sludge through there. And while Donahue is designing this project, our intention is to use our staff to relocate those lines through that so they no longer go through there, essentially making everything that's active in that space inactive, removed. And so demolition contractor can simply come in and do the demolition at a lower cost than if they also had to move those lines as well. So we are trying to be cognizant of the dollar figure for the project.
My question is, so is there a thought for the future for that area for possible expansion or something else? Is there something else going to go in there? Is it just going to be basically a blank area and that's it, or?
Yeah, that's definitely part of what we're asking for from Donahue is to make that space itself both safe and inert, but also to have the green space above it be eventually buildable for future needs if those come along. And so this is on the south end of the wastewater plant. Most of our water treatment is along the north end. And so we don't really envision this area being used for anything in the future, but certainly if there is a need, we want Donahue to design this in a way that it's reusable.
Thank you. Questions? Anyone? Okay, looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion is made by Alder Bellinger, second by Alder Russ. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Item number 8, resolution number 158, 2526 by Alderpersons Decker and Rust, authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter a contract with Strand Associates for engineering services related to an ultraviolet light disinfection transition at the water treatment plant.
Okay, thank you. This is my last one, and then Mr. Jump can take it from here. But so one of the big key pieces of the wastewater treatment process is right at the end of the water line as it goes into Lake Michigan is to disinfect. Both for E. coli, fecal coliform, all the gross things that you can imagine at a wastewater plant that you don't want to see get into Lake Michigan. Sheboygan is one of those communities that has year-round requirements. Many plants only have requirements in their DNR permit for the warm weather months from May through October. We have requirements all year long. And so disinfection for us is a key part of our process the entire year. Up until this point, we have used bleach basically to disinfect the water and then a bisulfite product to offset some of the results of that bleach right before it goes into Lake Michigan. And that system works okay, but it's at a point where we would need to replace the tanks that hold those two chemicals and some of the other pieces of the equipment that provide that service. So we were kind of at a point where we thought, do we want to replace these tanks and go through that kind of project, or do we want to look at the thought of UV disinfection? So basically with ultraviolet light disinfection, the water passes over a bank of UV lamps that disinfect the water using the UV. This is a technology that's been around for many, many years. I would say most plants have probably converted to UV disinfection. We're probably one of the larger ones that has not yet converted to UV disinfection. It's much safer. You're not dealing with those chemicals. And then something that we really noticed in the year or two after COVID was that the price of bleach and bisulfite went up significantly. And so something that seemed like a very affordable way to disinfect a few years ago all of a sudden became much more on par with how would we offset the cost of converting to UV if we wanted to go to UV. And so last year we hired Strand to come and do just a real small study of can we handle our disinfection needs at the plant with UV instead of chemicals, and they concluded that we could. And then we also asked them to look at the 20-year present worth value of if we make a bigger upfront investment with the UV disinfection, would the savings over time match what we would spend on chemicals? And essentially it did. They were able to conclude that essentially the two are comparable. And so there are many, many advantages to the UV disinfection. Like I said, it's safer. The costs are more stable. We think it's more effective. We did some sampling of our water and found that it was pretty clean, surprisingly for some maybe, but and so we feel like we're a pretty good candidate for this. And so the cost for Strand, this is a very big project. The cost for them to design this project and help us with procuring the system and things like that would be $535,000. We did have $500,000 budgeted, so it's close. And so we're asking for approval of this design contract. This is another one where we're asking for clean water funding as well, because it's so big.
Okay, I guess I'm going to ask one quick question, make one quick point. Say we wouldn't do this, say we would stick with the old, this wouldn't be a zero sum. We'd still have to pay significant because of you're doing this because of your chlorine tanks and your sulfate tanks are needed to be replaced also then. So this wouldn't, we're looking at paying maybe a little bit more to upgrade our system instead of paying the same and having the same old system, which is going to have similar problems in the future because it's chlorine, and chlorine corrodes everything.
Correct. And you might remember, since you've been on the council for several years, that several years ago, maybe 5 years ago, the CIP did include project to change out those tanks.
Yeah.
And so it would be a CIP project even if we stayed with chlorine and bisulfite.
Yeah. Which one?
Not as big a project, but yes.
Okay. Yeah. Alder Borst is first.
Thank you, Chair. Very happy to hear about an upgrade of this nature, which seems like it's much more environmentally friendly. But I'm just curious, are there any significant or noticeable difference in the efficacy of the two methods, using the bleach and other chemical versus the ultraviolet?
I think that like any engineering consultant, Strand would design this in a way to have quite a bit of safety cushion with how much UV light they make available to make sure that we can not only meet our UV or our requirements from the DNR, but exceed them. And so I would feel much more confident with the UV system. It would have some duplication. And so if part of the system was down, there would still be the chance to disinfect with the remaining bank of lights. And our current system, like Alder Decker mentioned, I'm sorry, I saw the Sorensen and I got thrown off.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Alder Decker mentioned the corrosive nature of bleach. And so even in the last year, there have been several cases where some of the bleach lines had a leak because of that corrosive nature. And so I'm more worried about the reliability of the bleach system just because of that impact of the corrosive nature. So I do think that environmentally, the UV would be much more reliable and dependable.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Alder Bellinger.
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious as to why we are one of the only communities that has year-round monitoring versus only in the warmer months, and why that would be, and what we can do to maybe change that.
Excuse me. That's a really good question that I don't think I have a great answer for. I should probably do some more research on that. I think that each permit is unique in the body of water that we discharge to. And then, so I think the fact that we discharge into Lake Michigan, which is also the source of our drinking water and has public beaches and things like that, has the E. coli element to the, permit, not just, every plant has a fecal coliform component to their permit that they have to meet in the water that they discharge. I do think the fact that we discharge into Lake Michigan and have those beaches is one reason that the E. coli is a factor, and it goes year round. But I can do some more research into why we're unique in that way. As far as I know, there's no talk amongst the DNR to relieve us of that. We do have a new 5-year permit that's due from the DNR in this coming year. And in our preliminary conversations with them, that is not one of the topics that seemed open for change as we look ahead to this next 5-year period.
So would I be safe to assume that every community on the lake has that same requirement because they are discharging into the lake?
I think that that's true. One of the examples that one of the companies that we talked to about this project looked at was, I think it was maybe Beloit. It was a community that did not have year-round requirements, and so their design could be much simpler. They didn't need an enclosed building because basically the staff was only working on the system during decent months, things like that. So I would guess that a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're into Lake Michigan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this? Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made by Bellinger, seconded by Alder Rust. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, that's approved. Thank you very much, Jordan. Very informative. Okay, we're moving on to item number 9, resolution number 159-2526 by Alderpersons Decker and Rust, authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute a contract for engineering for the design of the New Jersey Avenue Trail. Engineer Jump.
Thank you. You may remember that last summer, this committee and Common Council approved signing a state municipal agreement with DOT to use federal funds from the carbon reduction grant to build a multi-purpose trail from Kiwanis Park to the existing non-motorized trail that was built, when was that built? About 12 years ago along Taylor Drive. So the next phase of this project is to sign the design contract. So this would be signing the 3-party design contract with JT Engineering so that we can start the design phase.
Okay, thank you. I'm excited about this. I think this is really great. I'm looking forward to it. I think this is just another addition to that ribbon to get us closer to joining all the trails in the city. This gets us, because the Kiwanis Park one doesn't quite go to the shoreline one, does it? Doesn't quite reach that technically, or does it? Would that actually make that full loop, or that would complete that connection then too? So now you can go from basically from Washington Avenue all the way down, all the way through, and then cut across there. And once this is completed, you'll be able to go through that loop and actually get you to the Shoreline 400, and then it would bring you all the way up to North Avenue, which is really cool. So I guess the question that Brian asked, is this going to be bike also?
Yes, it's a multi-purpose trail.
It's going to be
Bike and
multi-purpose. Okay, that answers that. Okay, I guess that answers Alder Bors's question. Alder Bellinger.
Thank you, Chair. Except for not electric bikes, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I'm just. I mean, it's the Taylor Drive one is non-motorized. I'm just. What's the clarification? I mean, now that obviously when that was designed, that was pre-e-bike. I'm just giving Brian a hard time. So, but yeah, I'm just curious about that. So.
Okay. City Attorney.
I thought I might go the whole meeting without activating my mic. Staff is working on a play vehicle ordinance to address the rise in e-bike usage. One of the things that we also identified was that we have a lot of multi-use trails within the city, but we also have a lot of non-vehicular access pathways in all directions within the city that are based, like, they're the core, that's how you get from east to west or from north to south. So how do we account for those vehicles to be used in a safe way without impacting the safety of other users on those trails and pathways? So yeah, we are working on that. We hope to present something soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Looking for a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is made by Alder Bellinger, seconded by Alder Rust. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Okay, tentative next meeting date is February 9th, 2026. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made by Alder Rust, seconded by Alder Bellinger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
This was Tommy Wilson's.